Long ago, in a vast and prosperous kingdom, there lived a noble king. He ruled with wisdom and strength, and his people loved him dearly. One day, as he traveled through the land, he saw a young woman by a stream. Her presence stopped him mid-motion. From the moment his eyes met hers, the world shifted. For the first time in his life, the king's heart was no longer his own. He brought her to his palace with honor. Every comfort was laid at her feet, and for a time, joy filled the king's life in a way it never had before. But soon, something unexpected happened. The girl became ill. The joy that had once echoed through the palace was gone. The king summoned the finest healers from every corner of the kingdom, but none could find the cause, and none could offer a cure. As the days passed, the king grew silent. The power he had once wielded so easily felt useless in the face of her fading breath. That night, alone in a quiet room, he knelt in prayer. He spoke not as a king, but as a man, afraid to lose what he could not replace. When sleep finally took him, he had a dream. A figure appeared. A sage, quiet and ageless, stood in stillness and looked into him. The voice was not loud, but it echoed inside his bones. The message was clear. At dawn, a healer would come, one who understood the girl's illness in ways no one else could. And so, the next morning, a stranger arrived at the palace. He was unlike the others. His eyes held the silence of centuries. His presence was steady and unhurried. The king met him without ceremony. He simply said, "If you know what this is, speak." The healer said nothing at first. He walked to the girl's bedside and sat beside her in silence. He gently took her wrist in his hand and closed his eyes. Then, softly and steadily, he began to speak. He named a city. "Balk," he said. He paused and felt her pulse. "No change." "Bokhara." Her breath caught slightly, but the pulse remained steady. He continued like this, naming one city after another. Then, without any warning, he whispered, "Samarkand." Her pulse jumped. It was subtle but clear. The healer opened his eyes. He looked at her, not surprised, but now certain. He turned toward the king and spoke with quiet conviction. "She is not ill in the way your physicians imagined. Her heart is not fading, it is reaching, and it reaches for something far from here." Then he turned back to the girl and asked, gently, "Is there someone you love in Samarkand?" The girl's eyes widened. For a moment she didn't answer, but there was no judgment in the healer's gaze, only understanding. Finally, she nodded. "There is," she said softly, "a goldsmith. I loved him before I came here." Without hesitation, the king gave the order. Messengers were sent across deserts and mountains, and in time they returned with a young man, a goldsmith from Samarkand. When the girl saw him, she smiled. For a while, everything the king had feared vanished. He watched from a distance as the two were reunited. He said nothing, he only gave his blessing. And yet, the healer remained. He stood apart, quiet and watchful. He had seen something the king had not. Time passed. The girl and the goldsmith lived together in the palace. But slowly, something began to change. The healer, unseen by them, had prepared a subtle test. A harmless potion, dropped into the goldsmith's food, began to fade his glow. His youth dulled. The spark in his eyes dimmed. Nothing dramatic, just enough to strip away the illusion. And soon, the girl began to see him differently. One evening, she sat in silence across from him. She looked at him, not with hatred or regret, but with quiet clarity. And she understood. She returned to the king, no longer sick, no longer searching. She knelt before him and said nothing at first. The healer was standing in the room. The king turned to him and asked, "Who are you?" The healer smiled gently. "I am no one," he said, "only a guide." What she desired was not false, but what she truly needed could not be found in the face of another. The king nodded. He understood now too. That day, both the king and the girl learned what they had not known before. Love that is bound to beauty fades, but love that is eternal, quiet, patient, unseen, that is the love that lasts. And so, the story ends not in heartbreak, but in knowing. And as quietly as he came, the healer was gone.